Good evening, welcome. If we could call this meeting to order, and if we could please start with a moment of silence for prayer or reflection. Thank you.
Okay, first item of business is adoption of the agenda. I do have one item to add. So that would be item 9.1, which will be City of Medicine Hat offer to purchase the Monarch Theatre.
Okay. Any other additions? All right, seeing none, we'll accept the agenda.
Adoption of the minutes from our last meeting, June 7th.
Any errors, omissions? Seeing none.
Moving along now to our presentation tonight, it's our regular COVID-19 update from Merrick Brown, Manager of Support Services, Director of Emergency Management.
Welcome, Eric.
Your Worship, members of council, this is definitely a memorable moment, as I think we've all heard that we hit stage 3. We hit the threshold for stage 3 on June 17th, which ultimately means we move into almost no restrictions. We will see as close to normal on July 1st that we have seen since February of 2020. So this is over a year and a half that we've been through this. It's definitely an exciting time, but I want to bring maybe a little bit of realism into this as well. On July 1st, technically we don't have to wear a mask. Technically we can have indoor social gatherings. Technically we don't have to physical distance because as per the province, really the restrictions have been lifted. We may all feel that way, but others may not. Individuals still have a choice to be cautious. Individuals may still choose to wear a mask. Individuals may still choose to maintain distance. And I think all of us need to respect that. The same goes for businesses. Prior to the province announcing provincial mask requirements, prior to the city implementing our own mask bylaw, businesses still chose to require masks. We also need to respect that. The virus will still be here. So we still need to be cautious. We still need to be realistic with this, and we need to respect each other throughout this process. This is definitely an exciting moment, but at the same time, we still need to actually see what stage 3 is. The province has announced and has been fairly public the fact that all restrictions are lifted. That being said, I just want to also bring some realism into this as well. They're not all lifted per se. There will still be slight restrictions in specific settings, such as assisted living or extended care. Another critical one that I want to highlight is isolation requirements. So if any one of us tests positive for COVID-19, there is still that requirement to isolate. So I do want to bring some realism into this as well. We still have yet to really see what that is. I've been surprised many, many times throughout this pandemic, and I have yet to see what that actually looks like. I am excited, but I'm still cautious at the same time. Vaccinations, they are as important as they ever should be right now. With restrictions being lifted on July 1st, this is our protection. we no longer can rely on the province to tell us what to do. All of the restrictions will be lifted, or the majority of the restrictions. It is now up to all of us. It's up to personal accountability. This is our protection. The province has been very, very public with that. As you can see right here, I applaud the residents of Medicine Hat, given the fact that we are higher than the provincial rate for fully vaccinated. However, that being said, we are lower than the provincial rate for first dose. So given the fact that this is our protection, I don't even really want to say it's one of the protections. It is our protection, and it's our own choice. If you were ever on the fence as to whether to get vaccinated or not, undecided, now is the time to make that choice and get vaccinated. Because once again, this is our protection. We can't rely on the government to tell us what to do, tell what our neighbors to do or not to do. It is all up to us. Personal accountability. This is where we're going. I applaud the residents of Medicine Hat. I applaud everybody in Alberta to getting through this, but ultimately we still all have to make a choice with this. It is still here. The virus will still be here, and we need to make that choice to get vaccinated. Thank you very much.
Councillor Hirsch?
Well, thanks, Merrick. You know, again, I appreciate your plea that you're putting out there, and I guess one of it is, you know, it's interesting. It was turbulent going into COVID, quite frankly, in terms of masks, not masks. People were in a state of flux. Some were denying, et cetera, and it's always going to be there, and we're moving through that. We went to a bit of a resignation in the fact that here we are, we're in COVID, we got masks, et cetera. And it feels like we're just kind of on, now as we get into the latter stage, we're trying to move out of this. I feel like a lot of turbulence is now about to happen, and I think you alluded to it as well. I guess I'm just interested in your thoughts, and you've already indicated that being said that, you know, the plea is to go get inoculated, go get your vaccine, et cetera. You know, it's interesting. I guess my plea would be to the citizens of Medicine Hat is still be neighborly to each other. And what I mean by that is there's some that I just talked to literally today that are still deathly afraid, and they want to keep the mask on and they want a social distance. But yet it's not going to be very far in the future that people are going to get into their bubble, if you will. People that won't have their mask on, people that are going to be back in public and doing whatever. And I guess my concern is that I really hope that there's going to be some empathy for those individuals that are still not feeling comfortable enough to move forward. I don't know when that, quite frankly, is. You know, maybe when it's the COVID numbers are literally down to manageable single digits or even nil. Who knows? But I encountered a unique situation with a business that I thought was absolutely brilliant. They actually had red, yellow, and green bracelets, and I don't know if it was on the media, but I thought it was brilliant. Red is just, you know, respect my distance. Yellow is, I'm still a little gun shy, but green is, hey, can we hug? I'm ecstatic. But I really felt some sort of signal besides this, because maybe in the future, I may be able to take my mask off too and go in the community. But I'm just wondering your thoughts of maybe if you want to just, you know, have your feedback in regards to just my thoughts about, you know, the turbulence, the plea, and to make sure that we respect each other.
Just through the chair, and your thoughts, Councillor Hirsch, are very similar to mine. I'm maybe cautious of perhaps a different kind of feeling or thoughts that other people may be having. You know, where everybody's risk tolerance is different, and I, at the same time, have empathy for all of those individuals that may not be feeling comfortable. I talk to some of these individuals on almost a daily basis, and so although I'd like to, you know, stand up here right now and, you know, celebrate and have everything going back to normal, I can't help but think of those people. And I know that they'll struggle, and we have to respect that. And so I echo your plea for respect. It's been 18 months of this. It's become normal for people. And so I just caution everybody that although you may want to get out there and do everything that you possibly can and perhaps, think that, well, why can't other people be like me? Well, it's because they can't. And you have to respect that. Not everybody's like you or me or whoever it may be. And it comes right down from here please respect those people.
Councillor Dumanowski.
Thank you. Excuse me, Your Worship. Thank you, Merrick, again. I think it's very appropriate, the comments that you bring in particular your role. You've seen the highs and lows. You've ridden the roller coaster. I mean, we have as well, but you've lived it in a real way and have had access and heard from the people in a real way on both sides of the conversation. Certainly, you have every reason to be cautious, and I think all of us need to heed that kind of mindset as we move towards the reopening. There is excitement. There is reason for optimism, but you're right. It just, as my colleagues and I today were talking, this kind of arbitrary switch just seems almost difficult to imagine, and yet it for many people it won't be. It won't be okay. It's July 1st. Mask off. We're at it. But I think the respect piece is there, and I certainly echo that. As far as you talking about the stats, 65% of Hatters have had at least one vaccination. When you think about it, and again, I don't want to suggest that 70% creates a statistical variable difference that somehow it makes it better, but certainly that does demonstrate that there are 3 or 4 for every 10 people in the community as of July 1st who have not been vaccinated. And so there's still a need to be honest and respectful, and at the same time do everything we can to help people get there. And I think last time I was here, I remember saying, and I got some flack from some people about, that there were people who were waiting to get vaccinated because they wanted to wait and see, and then there were others who were waiting because they thought, well, I've waited this far, I'm going to wait for some kind of incentive. And both came true. I didn't have a crystal ball, just it was indicative of what was happening, elsewhere around the planet, quite frankly, in the U.S. in particular. But it did get people going, and certainly it maybe added a level of, I don't want to say excitement, but something different to frame your mind around as they started to move down this journey. So I will say that some of the people who I knew, family and friends, who were on the fence, wanted to kind of do the cautious wait and see approach, did that, and they got vaccinated. So that's fantastic. But there are others I know who are opposed to it for different reasons and won't. So they fit into that statistic. So again, it just speaks back to our need to be cautious, reason to be optimistic. We're seeing, that vernacular of the light at the end of the tunnel. It certainly is coming. My question then is around this organization, the city. And so some people will say, well, July 1st, everything's open. Boom, boom, boom. Maybe we're there. I don't know. What is our organizational and HR response to that July 1st date in the form of cautious optimism, but nonetheless being careful and prudent around how we do this so that we don't jeopardize something that could be really good from spiraling out of control, because there could be pockets of that, and I'm certain that will be evidenced very soon after. But what are we doing? What can the public expect?
That's an excellent question. And through the chair, I don't want to allude to too much at this point, given the fact that it's definitely timely for that question, given the fact that we're having these discussions throughout the week for that matter. And it really focuses on two separate aspects is, what is seen externally and then perhaps what is not seen externally, which is seen directly internally with our own staff. So those are the decisions that need to be made. Those are the discussions that need to be had, and they need to be very methodical, we'll say. But also recognizing, similar to the question that Councillor Hirsch had, is we need to be cognizant of that aspect as well. Unfortunately, we don't have a book for this, and we have to be, our decision-making needs to be sound, and it needs to be based on facts, but also recognizing the impacts to the individual. So don't want to allude to too much at this point, just like I said, given the fact that those discussions are occurring right now.
If I just quickly supplementary, can the public, as in we, the advocates and spokespeople for the public, then expect that as things develop very methodically and precisely as you've indicated, that would be available in a very concrete way on our website or somewhere? Because that's going to be the difficulty. Just like when this all came on, there was mistruths and twisted truths and everything in between. I think people will want to know. And certainly, I would imagine our website will be the source of that truth for the citizenry. Is that correct?
That is correct, absolutely,
Thank
and
you.
we will commit to that.
Thank you, Councillor Varga.
I just have two questions. Thank you, Merrick. Councillor Hirsch brought up a great point about respect. And I mean, being in the field and working, we deal with people every day. And the question always comes around, oh, did you get your vaccination? Did you get vaccinated? And so when people say, no, I haven't got it yet, you kind of take two steps back and they can see that in you, right? And go, oh, okay, well, I did. And you usually ask why. And again, it's a tough conversation, right? So, and it's to the point where people are tired of hearing about it. They don't want to hear about it. They just want to move forward. Two questions, Merrick. Is there a timeline on this? Once the reopening is taking off, and if they're going to see any results or something that they're going to judge by in a certain period of time after that to see if this reopening is a good thing? Have they talked about a timeline on that, or is it just free for all and whatever happens, happens, and we just move forward?
Just through the chair, and so I'm just going to speak from what I hear from what the province is stating, and this is closure.
Okay.
Now, that being said, is the province obviously has that authority, given the fact that, this has happened multiple times before, and we've had how many, multiple waves throughout this. I don't want to jeopardize what we've done before and state that it won't occur again, but we need to be realistic in the fact that it could happen again, meaning there could be additional restrictions, given the fact that this whole objective associated with the public health measures is to protect the healthcare system. Therefore, if it increases, if we get multiple variants that continue to develop, I don't know what the next 6 months will bring.
My second question is, how many people do we have now? What's our numbers, by chance? You never said it tonight.
21 cases locally.
Okay. And hospital, any in the hospital?
So based on what was reported, so given the fact that it's the entire south zone, I believe there is 10 in the hospital, I believe.
Okay. So really good numbers from a month ago or 6 weeks ago, which is great. So, and I'm glad that, when you go back to the 12 plus, and then you show the different averages on there that you're familiar with the amount of vaccines being done. Why do you have a special one at the bottom for the 12 plus? When you've got them up above also, right, from 12 to 19?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So when you look at the top row there, the 0 to 11, so it's 0% right across. It's just because the Public Health Agency of Canada hasn't approved the vaccine for that age group. And so the 12 plus would be eligible Albertans. So all Albertans, if you were to take in that percentage, it would actually be lower than what is listed at that 12 plus, because we would be taking in the entire population. That 12 plus is obviously only taking in 12 and above, it's eligible. So we would actually be lower than what is listed right there. I don't have those numbers offhand, but it's an excellent question.
Yeah, I see that it's at a high amount as fully vaccinated, right? And yet above it only shows 3.4%, right? From the 12 to 19.
Yes.
So,
The 12 plus takes into account the 12 and up to 90 and
oh,
above.
90? Oh,
Yes.
okay.
So
okay.
above, so everybody else essentially 12 and above.
So really, we haven't hit some of where they're expected to go. They haven't got the phone call yet, I take it, on some of these, which is from, I believe, the 40 to 50, well, no, the 20 to 39 and the 12 to 19 haven't been able to go get their second doses yet, I'm assuming. Correct?
Yeah, that is correct. So when you start looking at the 75 and above and then go up the row there, obviously it's decreasing, is the timing or the sequential timing for which each individual would have been eligible, or each age group would have been eligible. So the 12 and above was just announced for eligibility, I believe, last Thursday. And once that hit, the booking system within Alberta Health Services just ballooned. And so it's actually quite difficult to get a vaccine appointment right now, just given the fact that there's so many, well, basically everybody 12 and above is essentially eligible to have your second dose.
I guess I'm looking at the age bracket that I'm in, from 40 to 59, and I see it's only, I'm fully vaccinated, I went and got it, but the 27.9%, how long ago was that updated, or is it updated every day?
So I would have updated that yesterday. So it would have been updated, it would have been accurate up to June 19th. So it's always a day lag from, 1 day lag from the province.
I guess it's just troubling because mine was 2 weeks ago, and I'm at the upper echelon, but to see that it's still at 27%, I think it should be more, right? Because it's been out for quite a while. It's been out for 3 weeks already, right? So again, that's just a frustrating part, but it is what it is, and I hope it gets better for the sake of everybody. And like Councillor Hirsch said, Medicine Hat's done very well as compared to the Alberta average, so it's great to see, and hopefully when things open up, people respect what's happening within the community, and the people that are still resisting the fact that they don't want to be close to people and talking to people without a mask on, that people respect that. I think it's important that that respect part comes into play, and that there's no arguments and fighting, and you don't have to wear the mask anymore, so why are you wearing a mask? It doesn't really matter. We've gone through this for long enough now that it shouldn't matter that people are wearing masks or respect their distance. So I hope we take good onus of that when July 1st comes around. So thank you.
Right, seeing no more questions, could we get a motion for reception?
So moved.
If we could vote? That was unanimous, thank you. Thank you, Merrick. So I was just speaking with Merrick before we came down here, and he will present to Open Council on July 5th, and then after that, it's probably his last time, barring unforeseen circumstances.
Mr. Mayor, can we still get Merrick to wear his uniform around whenever he's at work? Just thought I'd
I think it is his new uniform, so yeah.
Thanks, Eric. Moving on now to reports. Item 5.1, Energy and Infrastructure Committee meeting. Just a motion to close.
I'll move the report.
I'll second that.
If we could vote. That was unanimous, thank you.
Item 5.2 is Public Services Committee meeting, June the 14th. Again, just for information, action on smoking and health, Medicine Hat Public Library Annual Report, and Parks and Rec Master Plan.
I will move the report as indicated, and after it's seconded, just make a couple of quick comments if I could.
I'll second.
Go ahead, Councillor Friesen.
Okay, thank you. We had a very interesting presentation from a group called Action on Smoking and Health. Well, they weren't called that, but the presentation was Action on Smoking and Health. And also an excellent report, as always, from the Medicine Hat Public Library, and you'll see their annual report attached here. What I wanted to make a very quick comment about is the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, and remind everyone that we've been having this process for some time, as you are aware. At every Public Services Committee, we have a chance to have some input on another aspect of the plan. And I'm just excited to let you know that during the course of the summer, for the 2 months of the summer, will be the part where the public are consulted about their views, opinions, desires, all of those aspirations for Parks and Recreation into the future, and have a chance to ask their questions as well. So we'll be giving, the city will be putting out more information about that, but I know there's been a lot of interest in this, and a lot of people wanted to ask their questions and be heard. So that's when it will happen. And we'll be looking at the finalized report sometime in the fall. So it's closer than we realize. And so I just wanted to make you aware of that. You'll see a report in your package, and I think if people want to look further, they can go on the website for some additional information. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Councillor Turnbull, or are you just getting, oh, no, okay. If we can vote? Oh,
Just very
Councillor
quickly,
Gimanowski.
Worship,
Yep.
just to Councillor Friesen's point about stakeholder engagement, we value that, and I'm certainly in this process of evaluating kind of the services into the future, and we do get once in a while an email in that regard, but this is the public's opportunity, and as much as sometimes people feel like, well, I'm just one person, each time somebody says that, you are that one person, and collectively you shape direction, you create directions, you create policies, and it's important. So I'm not even trying to be trite. It's vital that people feel that their contribution will be heard, and I would recommend they mark into their calendars so they can actively participate.
Thank you. Councillor Turnbull?
Well, yeah, I think Councillor Gimanowski makes some good points. Look, we've saw the quotes in the newspaper about council wanting to close all the older units of recreation within our city, and that it's a great part of their community. But we all have to remember as well that some of our infrastructure of recreation they come to the end of their life. And how much money do we spend, and how much will that money, will it give us another 5 years out of those facilities, and then we still have to be closed, versus looking at newer facilities. Secondly, our city has changed from where we built a hockey rink out at the Moose and up at the Hounds, and then of course at the Kimplex. But we've got whole new sections of our city that our populations are growing very, very dramatically, and they have zero. They have no hockey rinks, they got no pools. And so the whole point of the study is to say, what will it cost us to fix the old ones, and do we have enough money in our city to build new ones on top of that in other areas of the city, or are we going to try to find some solution that will try to accommodate everyone in the city? And it's not like we live in Calgary, so I can drive from my place in Rossglen to Family Leisure Center in 10, 15 minutes. If I get lucky and hit all green lights, I'm there a lot quicker than that. But people in Southridge, they drive a lot further. Now, they're right off the highway. They can get on there and speed up. So, but it's just a discussion we need to have, because I get just as many calls from people and citizens to say, well, what are you going to do for Southridge? Why can't we have a pool? Why can't we have an FLC center? Well, if you go on and see how much it costs us to operate the FLC, it's about $2.5 to $3 million subsidy. So could we afford another $3 million subsidy for an FLC in the south on top of the $75 million it costs to build it? I guess that's the question that the next council, after this plan has been put together, is prepared to answer. So I think what we have to remember is we're still very much on financially fit. We still are not totally financially solid as yet. Our base is still pretty shaky. So we need to take all those things into consideration when we go to decide how are we going to spend the money that we have either in reserves. And as an old friend of mine used to say, building them is easy. Affording them on a year-to-year basis, operational costs, that's not so easy. That's where the real cost to operate any facility is in operational costs. So I just think, I get it. I think it's become very emotional for people who think that Crestwood should be kept open, pool, that we shouldn't get rid of the older hockey rinks and build newer ones, and maybe we shouldn't, and maybe we have to look at that whole financial picture. Is it better for us over the next 30 or 40 years to build new structures that will go to 40 years, or keep spending money on aging facilities that may or may not last more than 5 to 10 years? So those are great discussions, and the next council will have the ball. And I know we've got some people here who would like to be on council, and so it'll be interesting making those decisions. But I think having the public come to these meetings and give their opinions, and then, but always, it's one thing to say I'd like to have an indoor pool in Southridge. I would love it. I think the people there would love it. What is the cost to it, and where do we find the money, and can we keep it open as well as the FLC can keep build a new one and still keep Crestwood open? That becomes a financial decision, more so than just saying I want to have that. We all want lots of things, but at the end of the day, the public has to pay for it. So I just caution everybody to, for sure, come forth to those meetings, make your case known, tell you what you think you'd like your elected officials to do on that. And so I look forward to seeing the results of those meetings and the strategy that either the council later this year or the new council starting in October will come to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Friesen.
Well, just to wrap up, and I'm so encouraged that you are all, you're all so supportive of the stakeholder engagement. So I just thought I'd give you, those who are listening, a few ideas about how to take advantage of the engagement. As I said, if you go on the website, I neglected to tell you, it's called Shape Your City. There will be by invitation online stakeholder sessions that will include a presentation, chance to ask questions. There'll even be a workbook, plus some discussion. We're not leaving out the young people. I mean, they're the ones that will be using facilities into the future, and do now, of course, as well. So there'll be in-classroom sessions with students, which I think will be fabulous. 4 pop-up tent sessions in outdoor venues. I can't tell you where or when yet, but look for those. So you're not having to go indoors. You can be using the park and take advantage of those sessions. There'll be 3 indoor display panel setups and a link to a survey. So if you're the person who enjoys doing well, I can't think of many people who enjoy doing surveys, but nonetheless, it's a great way of garnering input. We'll have media releases and radio interviews and so on. So there will be a diverse array of ways to provide your input. And as you've all said, it's an excellent opportunity to understand it better and talk about your aspirations for the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments? If we could vote. That was unanimous. Thank you.
The next report's item 5.3, Audit Committee meeting June the 15th, Triannual Management Report for information.
Worship, I'd like to move the report and have some couple comments after. Second?
Councillor Hirsch.
Second?
Thanks, Your Worship. I just wanted to take a couple moments and highlight a little bit of the efforts that were underway in regards to audit. And it's certainly not the most exciting topic in the world. In fact, if you read the 200 and some pages we have to go through, it makes you go to sleep at night. But having said that, I just want to compliment, our CFO, Dennis Eggert, with the CFO report. Here's a gentleman that's absolutely trying to become very transparent in terms of the city finances. I think we're in relatively good shape given the circumstances, and I just had some comments here. Really, the highlight of where we're at is that efforts are still underway to get to a balanced budget. We're very well capitalized with a strong balance sheet. Despite this, but there's still headwinds out there. We've got the cost of COVID, cutbacks at higher levels of government, commodity prices and swings, market volatility, and the general tax fatigue of the taxpayer that we are all well aware of. So those are still constraints, and again, managing those headwinds are certainly something that Dennis and his team is definitely on top of. But having said that, and despite the expense realities we have to do is in terms of this council's decision to, trim back expenses, I want to assure the general public as well that we're doing all steps necessary to work on that revenue lever as well in terms of economic development, and there's plans well underway. But, overall, I'm very pleased at where we're at. The efforts are noticing. I'm certainly seeing a lot of the heavy lifting done by staff, and I'm very appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Friesen.
Well, I appreciated the report too, and the work, Dennis, you and your team have put into it. The report I find is very, it's long. The background information is long. The PowerPoint itself is very explanatory. I think I really appreciated it, and I found it easily understandable. I wanted to ask, in the background, you talk a little bit about uncertainty related primarily to COVID, but not exclusively so. And that's something that is harder to pin down and understand fully when you're looking forward in terms of budget and fiscal reality. Now, you've identified a couple of impacts. So what we have known as MSI, or the Municipal Sustainability Initiative, will be seeing a reduction, a fairly significant one, from its historical amount from the province. And there's a new 90-10 cost sharing for disaster recovery, from the province, which will mean putting away some money for that. I had expected perhaps more impact on the budget. And when I looked at what you talked about for COVID, I find it intriguing, and I just thought you might want to give us a few more comments. So, we can't fully predict what COVID will mean in terms of consumer behavior. Now, that isn't all consumers of our municipality, but it does play a part. We're not quite sure how our governments, our federal, provincial government, are going to, we know some, but how will they in the future deal with the record deficits and the debt that has been accumulated, rightfully so because of the pandemic. So we don't know, what the consumer experience will be like and what the municipal revenue sustainability will be like. So, and that directly affects us. And also then it affects how we spend money, how our municipal services will work, and so on. So I'm not trying to be doomy and gloomy. I'm just wondering if you had any additional insight to share with us about that, because that kind of uncertainty, coupled with our accelerated financially fit, it's a bit concerning, but there's also some opportunities on the other side. So that's kind of a long-winded question. I'm sorry.
Through the chair, thank you, Councillor Friesen. Like other businesses in the province and other municipalities across Canada, we're dealing with, I call them external forces that we need to deal with, and largely around the granting program from the province of Alberta has been significantly reduced, and the province of Alberta is dealing with their issues as well, record debt and record deficit. And we're going to see the fallout of that for some time to come when there will be a I'll say, a provincial reckoning of them trying to balance the books. We also have volatility with our commodity prices. And volatility is for those of you that do follow either the commodity prices or even the public equity market, volatility has been the theme for the last 18 months to 2 years. You know, we're well aware that volatility is a big part of the environment that we're within. But I think the key is recognizing the volatility and having plans to work within that environment. The other one is, I'll say, COVID-19. And you had brought up what is the impact of COVID-19. We had a great presentation here by Merrick Brown on giving us some great hope for phase 3 of the Open for Summer plan of the province of Alberta. But with COVID-19, we don't have a playbook. This is something very, very unique. And you had talked about trying to predict consumer behavior and what the consumer will do having gone through 18 months plus of a COVID environment. And in some aspects, it's very unpredictable what residents or people will do. Employment and career choices, where they'll spend their time and money, municipal revenues, not just directly from province of Alberta, but also the residents in terms of their comfort and willingness to visit our public facilities again, and when will they be comfortable in doing that. And we hope they come back very soon because we've got some wonderful facilities. But also, you know, looking at municipal services, and COVID has brought a tremendous opportunity for us as well to look at new ways of delivering services. And that's, I'll say, a positive aspect of what COVID has done is it's forced us to take a look at how we do business and looking inside and seeing is there a different way of doing it. So that's a few points I just wanted to add based on your comments, Councillor Friesen.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to point out the uncertainty because it's really, I mean, for me, the COVID economically, it will change our life for the years to come. And globally, you know, nationally, provincially, from a municipal perspective, and of course within our own families. So that uncertainty is hard to predict. I understand that, but I thought it was worthy of mention because it touches quite deeply into sustainability.
Any other comments? Okay, if we could vote. That was unanimous, thank you.
Reports for reception now, item 6.1, the MPC meeting of May 12th.
I move this report for reception.
Comments? If we could vote. That was unanimous, thank you.
Item 6.2 is the Police Commission meeting of May 27th.
I move the report for reception.
Second.
Questions, comments? Councillor Dumanowski.
Well, Your Worship, I understand everyone is extended the opportunity to look at the report. I do want to highlight, just because they were kind of bunched into one report, but I will say, first of all, this is one of the longest police commission meetings in all the years I've been on, but it was worth the time. It was pretty incredible to be presented with a number of things. And so I'm going to just briefly touch on 3 points and then ask the public if they gauge interest in what I say to take the time to look. But one of them is the Chief Warden's presentation of the Equity and Diversity and Inclusion Plan, otherwise known as the EDI Action Plan. I'm going to read here, but clearly a lofty goal of any organization, certainly the chief and the executive and the entire rank and file, to put something like this together and then, more importantly, make it, put it into action. We often hear, and we're many times over the years accused of creating plans, master plans, and then they're shelved, and people muse that they catch dust. This one doesn't, not only does it deserve to be shelved. It won't be. As I said, we have a new chief who has made it clear that something of this magnitude and nature will be put into the enterprise in a real way. And it's not just internal functions, there are external ones as well on focusing on police service delivery. So I really look forward to this, because as soon as you put something like this out there, the media and the public will hold you accountable, and the chief has extended that invitation. So well done. The other one is the Indigenous Reconciliation Action Plan. Inspector McGough and the team put out, and it's created in response to missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls report. And again, is not just one of those things you can put out there and have kind of circulate, but not really have any meaningful action. So again, it identifies action items that are very specific to this within the organization. And it's also about building confidence, trust, credibility throughout the cultural community. And you know, there are a lot of events that have been happening and have been, you know, given added attention, and rightfully so, recently. And this just adds even more credence to its initiative. So I encourage everyone to have a look at that. Last one is Constable Funk spoke to the mental health response model, and or the PAC team, the police and crisis team, and we talk about that theme. I'm sure the last 2 terms it's been a conversation, if not every police commission report, every second one, and it's not because it's kind of what's happening, but because it's real, and it's indisputable. And so to see and have more information brought forward on this PAC and its impact on the service and its delivery, and again, its commitment to its evolution. And I know, even reading my own comments in the report around how they will implement and what are the challenges of implementing this new model. There are many of them, but certainly we are left with strong encouragement that they're working in partnership, and it really isn't just kind of a philosophical kumbaya moment. Let's just do this, and as long as the public understands what we're doing, we can action that in kind of a philosophical way. It's in a real way going to impact how and is currently affecting police services. And I think, again, with everything going on and more insight into how the mental health aspect of policing is evolving, this kind of platform requires even more attention. So for me, these are 3 reports, certainly, that came out of our last meeting that were very powerful and deserve to be brought to attention again today. And I encourage the public and council to look at them.
Thank you for those comments. Any other questions or comments? Okay, if we could vote. That was unanimous, thank you.
Moving on to new bylaws, item 7.1, bylaw 4675, the bylaw of the City of Medicine Hat to amend bylaw 4168, land use bylaw. This is a housekeeping item for Cooley Ridge Phase 1 to correct zoning boundaries. First reading only.
I move for leave to introduce bylaw number 4675, and that it be read a first time.
Second.
If we could vote. That was unanimous, thank you.
Item 7.2, bylaw 4676, bylaw of the City of Medicine Hat to amend bylaw 4168, the land use bylaw. 1301 Powerhouse Road from utilities to open space. Again, a housekeeping item.
I move for leave to introduce bylaw number 4676, and that'll be read a first time.
Second.
If we could vote. That was unanimous, thank you.
And lastly, bylaw 4677, a bylaw of the City of Medicine Hat to amend bylaw 4148, City of Medicine Hat land use bylaw, 4168.
I move for leave to introduce bylaw number 4677, and that'll be read a first time.
Second.
If we could vote? And that was unanimous, thank you.
And moving on to our new business tonight, which is City of Medicine Hat offer to purchase the Monarch Theatre. Mr. Chair, for the benefit of people at home, did you want me to read the recommendation?
Yes, please.
Okay. This is regarding City Council approval of an offer to purchase the Monarch Theatre upon terms and conditions which were accepted by the City Centre Development Agency today. The gross purchase price of $205,000 less repayment of the outstanding loan amount of $60,000 for a net cash, net cash amount of $145,000. The city to complete due diligence on or before June 22nd and a closing date on or about June 25th.
Can I get a motion?
I'll move that.
Thank you.
Second.
Any questions, comments? Councillor Somrush?
Thank you, Mayor Cluxton. The Monarch Theatre was one of the major loose threads remaining in the CCDA disestablishment process. I think this community recognizes the value of this historical building, and I'm happy that we have reached this tentative deal that's before us here for the city to take ownership of the theater. I think the city provides stability and time to determine the theater, the future of the theater, unlike the CCDA, which only has 9 days until its closure. I think everyone agrees that the last thing downtown needs is another vacant building, and this avoids this situation. Thank you.
Thank you, well said. Any other questions, comments? All right, if we could vote. And that was unanimous, thank you. Seeing no more business before this council, we're adjourned.